when we actually get to practice, it's a little more fulfilling, a little more illuminating. So they're doing more of the reason behind the drill and actually the situations and messing around with the situations and solutions rather than just trying to pick up and do the drill itself.
Yeah. Oh, Craig, you're alluding to drills, and most coaches I find they're drill collectors, and they just do drills, but they don't accomplish their purpose. And how important is that, Craig? Because I find it frustrating trying to get coaches to think about the nuances of the drill and the points that are going to make it work if you reinforce them.
The other thing I think is just a coaching evolution is a lot of people start in the collector phases. They don't understand the nuance and the details and what they're trying to accomplish. Plus, they think simplicity is not the greatest thing ever. They want the biggest, most complex thing ever. A drill that accomplishes so much. And they rarely have the time or the expertise to evolve into basically creating your own activities, your own drills, and being able to experiment and mess around with these things. So I think there's a reason why it works well for some folks and what they're able and capable of, whether it be time constraints, mental constraints, knowledge constraints, whatever it may be. Um, but I think the bigger piece that I go to is just start with simplicity, and then you can add more and more context, more and more complexity as you go along, rather than starting with the complexity, because the simplicity allows you to have that excess mental capacity to mess around and fool with things and understand what works, what doesn't, and then add on more components to it. So it becomes more and more game realistic. And you really trying to get the players to attune to the correct information that they need to pick up from the environment. So best way to do that is have them have some extra brain space. Kind of the old Carl Lewis rule. Whenever he was sprinting, is he's like, I only go 85%. I never go 100%
Yeah.
because it just leads to poor performance. So I struggle with that because I see a lot of coaches like you got to give 100%, and for me, it's not the most ideal learning environment. You don't learn to do many things under high amounts of stress. You get the stress added eventually, but you don't start there.
No, that's a good point, Craig. We've got coaches that demand a tempo at a practice, in other words, 100%, and they stay with their same battery of drills, which are good drills. They're deliberate. There isn't much thinking involved, but the pace of their practice is amazing, and it's reflected in their game performance and getting results. So there's sort of that line with if you want to be a successful coach, i.e., win, you have to discover the balance between, okay, we've got to teach this, and uh, we've really got to work harder. Effort precedes technique. And I don't know if you have uh, experimented with that or heard about that with coaches and deal with some that do that. They slow it down and teach too much, or is there such a thing? What's your thoughts on that? Work
It's
ethic.
all it's all teaching. I'm not here to coach work ethic. You're either going to work harder or not. And my biggest problem is like you put a kid in a drill that doesn't require him to have a challenge, and you expect him to rise to his own standards, which is very rare. Even in the NHL, you watch it. So like for me, if you want your kids to work harder, put another human being across from them,
Yeah.
and then the rest is all about teaching. What am I trying to teach? There's a few things that I'll do where it's kind of mock up pressure and token pressure, but realistically, it's full bore. Put them in the environment that they need to inhibit during a game. Like I just went to Blue Jackets versus Montreal Canadiens game, and we were front row, and completely different than even just coaching and you're behind the bench and just that little bit further away from it versus all the way up in the rafters. Like
Yeah.
the game is ridiculous. Like what you can actually see, one, and then two, the speed at which execution is required and the ability to think and get ahead of it.
Yeah.
I watched that one on half of that on TV.
It was an excellent game. Well played.
Tom, what's your take on pace, effort, technique. Uh, your practices to me are ideal relative to development, hockey IQ. Um, your drills are unpredictable, and there's thinking and competition built into them. And the constraints you set on drills force them to think and execute, make decisions, and in terms of when they're passing and how they're and where they're passing, because it's deliberately set, not just a routine of pass here, shoot here. There's no benefit from that in terms of decision making. So I think that's the biggest thing of all, Tom. What's your take on what we're talking about? Effort, decision making, and pace.
Well, I think that you always have to pay attention to how they're doing things. I know last practice I stopped them, I brought them all over because Jim had noted that a lot of times during the drill they stop skating and touch it two, three times before they shoot. And you're not going to get a shot off in a game, right? If you start going like that, the person chasing you is going to get your stick before you shoot. And the other big fault is they do drills to do drills. So what happens is this is one of the things that as they're shooting, they're already turning towards the lineup in the corner that they're going to instead of following their shot, looking for the rebound. So those are the kind of things I monitor. And if that's happening, I bring them over and, talk to them about that just isn't helping you whatsoever. That you have to go to the net, follow your shot, stop at the net, and this sort of thing. So it's something that I don't know, you have to pay attention to all the time. My kids are the ones I'm coaching here, they're pretty good at working, but like today we practice at right after school. So they've been sitting in a desk all day. Then they get in the car and their parents have to leave work early and rush across the city to get to town, so I think what I see sometimes is coaches not paying attention to work rest ratio. Like one coach last year, I watched a few of his practices, and they never rest. So the kids, their legs were like logs. They couldn't even move out there, and I don't think you're doing something very good if you have no rest whatsoever. You can't expect, it's like track training. If you want someone to go full speed, you have to give them, four or five times or six times even rest in between reps, depending how far they went, right? So you have to pay attention to that, and you know, and then if you want them to make decisions, then it's more like tonight we'll do a 3-on-0, 3-on-1, 3-on-2, and they're attacking together, and you count how many goals each group gets, and you got all the situations. But now it's more creative. You're not telling them you have to pass to this player, have to pass to that player, you know. And that, and we always play. I follow the ABC. Like we're going to start off. The goalies will be with the goaltender for 5 minutes, and we'll start off in the three circles, and they're handling the puck. And if you lose the puck, you're poking other people's puck away, right? So six in each circle, and you go to the next circle if you lose a puck. And the whole idea is to go as few circles as possible. And then B, we're going to do the machine gun, where we call it that. There's pass across, they pass to the player. Uh, the players love it's their favorite skill drill. We'll do that for 10 minutes. So that's designated who you pass to and when, but there's quite a bit of skill and timing involved. And then we go to C, we go to the goalie's there tonight, so we got to give her 30 minutes. So we have to do things we don't need a goalie for a while. So we'll do the Thomas regroup in the middle there, and we'll progress so that there's game situations and the games. We might do the Riley power play game because Jim can't be there to work in the power play. And what that is, we have 2 power play, 2 penalty kill units. So at one end, it's a contest to see who can score the most. So one end, the whites start with a power play, and if the blacks get the puck, they fire it down the other end. They do it, and there's one end to the other. And we've been living off our power play. We're scoring 2 power play goals a game. So I want to make sure we practice that. We go for a 3 day weekend tomorrow. We go up north for 3 games. And we like to also finish with a shootout. So it's a contest, and we have all kinds of shootouts we do. So, and I like transition games too that are one puck game situations. And, a continuous 2-on-1 to 3-on-3, and if we can, usually coaches jump in so we have 8D if sometime affiliates come. And we can go to 2-on-2, 3-on-2. The puck goes end to end. So, that's how kind of vary things. So you touch on everything decision making plus, that they're doing certain things. So I don't know, it's kind of a rambling answer, but it's kind of the way I'm in the middle of organizing my practice right now.
Craig, you've heard Tom speak about his practices, and I'm sort of sitting back and saying, wow, um, he sort of does the whole package. Um, I think his practice has accomplished a lot. I know that all their kids want their parents to play for Tom because he's teaching so much. And the main thing is passing. And Craig, I don't know if you've seen the Coach's Site podcast with Ryan Huska. And Tom, he spoke in Calgary to a group of coaches, and he talked about his son playing elite AAA Bantam hockey, I think, and he said there's no passing. He
Yeah.
talked about passing is the missing skill, and
And it's not only the skill of passing, it's, he says it's away from the game that players don't work together. Like my model in my brain always is uh, Gretzky with who was his line mate there, the Finn. Those two working together, and they always created a 2-on-1 on one player. You know, and that's driving me crazy. I can't think of his name. Anyways, the right winger would cut across and drop it to Gretzky, and he'd bring the puck in, and often Curry, often like Terry Johnson played against him all the time. And he said it was really hard because what happened is Curry would go over the blue line before Gretzky, and Gretzky had the puck, but Gretzky would reach with the puck over the blue line. And he said it made reading the rush difficult because nobody else did that. And Gretzky would read if the D had him, he'd go down and pull up and curl, and Coffey becoming wide. Their left winger always went to the post. And if the D backed in, Gretzky went to the middle, you know, and they always created 2-on-1s. And Huska says that doesn't really happen now, that the players work together, the give and goes. Like we had a practice, 2 practices ago, we worked goals only count on give and goes to get the players to think of this as a possibility. And that's what he was talking about, players working together to create things. Because I think what happens is assistant coaches in the NHL have taken over the game. And, they want them to go east to west, high to low, and all this sort of thing. So
yeah.
players are running almost like football plays out there, which is okay, but instead of just creating big principles, like create 2-on-1s and give and go and that sort of thing.
Craig, can you comment on that? I know the era of Gretzky and Curry. I don't know if you were young, old enough to watch them play as they grew up and came together with the Oilers, but they were creative. They invented ways of playing the game. I don't know. Are players still doing that? And to what degree are we stifling their creativity at any level?
Um, I think there's a fine line between standing on shoulders of someone who understands the game better and helping see some possibilities and also just letting it flow out of them. Uh, if we didn't need coaches, they wouldn't get paid so much and we wouldn't have many of them. There's obviously the benefit of having someone who's been there, done that, seen some things and help guide your eyes and your thoughts. But then there's also the idea of being able to let things freely flow out of the person, the true creativity from that, which there's a lot of benefits to. So I think there's a bit of both that can be helpful. The game does teach, but it's not a teacher all the way. You still need a little bit from the teacher to be the actual teacher. Um, for me, when I've got my high school kids, it's a matter of can you give and receive passes? That's a huge separating factor. Like I've got freshmen that are not used to handling pucks that are fired at them a lot of speed, so they've got to get adjusted to actually being able to catch passes. So that's the thing that we talk about a ton is you got to be able to do that. And next step, once you can do it, is do it within movement. We spend quite a bit of time on just being able to catch hard passes on both forehand, backhand while moving, uh, because if you can't do it, you can't play the game. You can't work together, which obviously breaks down. And then all you've got is one-on-one, and then players aren't skating to spaces they need to skate to, and then you get coaches mad about effort. But why would a player go somewhere where they know they're never going to get a puck in the first place? So I think the ability to one have them be able to give and receive passes hard on both sides of the blade is super important. And then the second piece is consistently encouraging players to go into spaces and then having players that have the puck being looking for those spaces is the basis of teamwork and take some time to build. But once you have it, it's fantastic. You never have to, talk about not skating again because it's super obvious when someone doesn't and they self-correct.
Well, that's exactly what the A does. A and B. A, you're handling the puck and all this individual skill, and B is exactly what you said, taking passes. It's partner work and teamwork. So you do that, but that then you have to put it into game situations and do things like moving the puck and create 2-on-1s and all this kind of stuff. So I'm saying the same thing as you is just you have to progress to different things and introduce challenges to them so that they learn to play the game properly, or with some creativity and not just it. It's like this middle drive push that's been in the last bunch of years. The middle drive, middle drive. Well, middle drive is a straight line hockey, and that's great if you're racing the other team down the ice. The middle drive is great. But if the other team's already back, they're playing a 1-2-2 or something, and some kind of a contain, then you have to create 2-on-1s to break them down. So you have to teach that. So I'm not disagreeing with you because you can't do anything if you don't have the skills. But and passing and pass receiving is the biggest weakness in our game for sure. But you can't spend all practice working on that and not the game. So it's
Yeah, and there's a lot of nuance that goes into it, right? Like we talk about middle driver all the time, but where do they even drive? Like I work on it with my kids and they constantly just go straight to the net and like, well, the passing lane sucks and it's really hard to get it to you. So maybe you should be going closer to the dot or even to the near hash where you can just simply just get a chip and start zone time rather than the go directly for the objective. Like that's another hard thing with my age group is getting them to find that fine line of immediately attacking the net off of every single situation, whether it be stepping in the zone and immediately putting a shot on net, which as we all know isn't going in anytime soon, um, versus letting things develop and having some patience. Like I just talked to a coach, fascinating team. He's been running for 20 years at this high school program, but it's the only one I've ever seen. It's like a hard cycle. They just do a classic cycle consistently. They just keep doing it, doing it, doing it. 2-man cycle, near side, backside, backdoor tap in threat. So you got the net D. They don't want to come into the cycle. So you're getting a center and a strong side D taking it. And his whole thing when he's talking about teaching it is all about patience. Like the kids don't have that patience or the ability to protect the puck when they first come into the program. But by the time they're seniors, it's super effective whether they have much talent or not. So it really works for kids of all skill levels. But I just find it hilarious of the lack of patience being a common concept when teaching.
Yeah, and it's their confidence too. They're out there afraid to make a mistake. Then a lot of times they force plays or they don't want the puck. They just kind of get rid of it. And that's what I do in this age group that I'm doing right now. That's especially the players in their first year to hang on to the puck and, like you say, wait till something develops and use the skills that they actually have to create something is not that common.
Yeah, or even just like trying to kill off a game. Like trying to teach players how do you kill off a game, and a big component of that is just good puck possession, like making sure you're putting pucks in good spots and then maintaining it rather than immediately going for the goal, even if there's a grade C chance. Really holding on and waiting out for A's is a good way to kill a game off. And um, Montreal Canadiens have been pretty good at that this year. I think they've shown a maturity from years prior where it's been, well, we'll just play the exact same way we've been playing versus, well, maybe we want to possess the puck a little bit more based on the game situation.
I was so proud of Montreal in that game, that overtime game, for the first team that's actually hung on to the puck in the offensive zone, and they were doing high cross and drops and all that sort of thing, keeping possession instead of skating back to their end with the puck to change on the go. It's so boring to watch. It's unbelievable. But they were keeping possession in the offensive zone. And I think they're the only team in the NHL that I've seen do that. Because overtime used to be so exciting when it first came in, and then coaches got a hold of this idea of hanging on to the puck and skating back. I wish there was an over and back rule at the red line at least. So I think that's their coach there
I
who
still
actually
want to see
plays
the
the game.
goalies get involved where it's kind of like soccer. You bump it back to the goalie, someone gets drug in, and then you got a 3-on-2. But I've seen it in some like AHL games, KHL, some European stuff, but have never seen a full commitment to it at the NHL level.
I just, I love the way Montreal finished that game against the Blue Jackets. Yeah, they're the only team I've seen do that. I have season tickets to the Flames, and I see everybody going back with the puck. But anyways, that's all puck supported, and doing the scissors and things like that can be really effective.
Well, and the other piece is just like what are the right conditions for a one-on-one? Like not every situation calls for it. And as you guys all know, with young players, when they start out, the faster kids just take the puck and go one-on-one or just skate around everyone. And eventually have to figure out, oh, what are the right conditions that actually have success with the one-on-one as they go up the ladder. So I think it's nice to see that and even just be a guiding force for young players to see like not every opportunity is a one-on-one, square someone up, try to go through them. What other situations do you need? You need good speed differential. You need to worry about the stick. Well, maybe we can create a 2-on-1 where you're asking questions of the defense that need to be answered. And in those question answering, there's a lot of mistakes that get made, or it's slow processing. So even if they do it right, if they don't do it quickly, it's still going to be an opportunity for you.
And everything depends on your team as well. This year, I have such a